Welcome back to Let's Play Higurashi and Meakashi. I have a headache, but then again, when do I not have a headache? That's part of the reason, I suppose. It's like well, these bastards are chirping as well, aren't they? You know, before I forget, I'd actually looked up Shion's name, like I put it into Google Translate, which isn't always accurate, but I put it in the kanji characters, and you know how she said, oh, you spell it with the words for sound and poetry or something like that, or poem, whatever, and that is how it's spelled, but I was like, well, how combine them, what does it make? And it should have been obvious to me at the time. A poet. Sound, poetry, put them together and you got a poet. But then I thought, but a poet doesn't necessarily have to read it aloud, do they? But I guess it kind of makes sense. Also, I think the audio went out of sync at some point in the previous recording. It definitely felt like it around this point, or with this soundtrack, like in the previous recording. I guess that's what happens when I record for too long, I guess. It goes out of sync. And it's harder to get it back in sync than it is when I record with a capture card, for example. Kind of harder to figure out where the syncing issue is. It had been a few weeks since the murder. Still hadn't been found. I had no new information on his whereabouts. Kasai's report came as a result completely out of the blue. And what else is out of the blue is the word of the day. What word? What word indeed? How about... Can never decide on a word. I just kind of browse and try to look for a word that I haven't gone over that seems, I don't know. Tsukima or schema? I don't know the pronunciation. I'm looking at it right. Tsukima. But for all I know, it could have a different pronunciation because Japanese or languages in general, really. But that means a gap. But you know, I've always heard that it's like it could be Tsukima or it could be schema. Because you know the U in Su usually gets ignored for whatever reason in a lot of pronunciations. I don't know why. It's like des, for example. It's like you hear a lot of like usually, especially on internet comments, it'd be like desu and all that in anime and shit. But I think that's probably more of a playful way of saying it, unless you're like doing a tag question that ends in ne, I suppose, where it'd be desne, because desne doesn't really sound right. But usually, like, from like what I hear like people just speaking Japanese normally, it's mostly just des. They like don't pronounce that bit at the end where it's desu. It's just des. Silent oo. Unless ne added on, it'd be like trying to think of an example of having like a tag question. It's kind of odd. That's all I know from those. It's just like I still don't fully understand these particles. Like ka, add it to an end of a statement turns into a question. Fair enough. Add an air at the end and it's a tag question. Can kind of understand how that works. But then you got other ones that kind of like put emphasis on certain words in a sentence and connect things, and I still haven't fully understood it. And still what confuses me is why. which can also be ha, but if it's used at the end of a statement, or well, not a statement, at the end of a word, and is like, I think it's used for like to make it the main focus or something like that, and it's pronounced wa instead of ha, and it's really just like, how confusing is that? And that's not even getting into the actual kanji characters and all that shit, because then shit gets real confusing. Does that mean the police arrest the culprit? It seems that he confessed during his interrogation regarding another case. That sounds strange. If it was Satoshi-kun they arrested, he wouldn't have worded it that way. It sounded as though Satoshi-kun wasn't the culprit. Oh, well, I've done this a million times, you know. I wonder if he'll have that mixed in there somewhere. You saw it there, blah blah blah. See, that's one of the particles I mentioned. That's like used to emphasize something, but I don't know what. And there, right there, that's ha, but that's probably why in that. I'm not sure, like, what, I have no idea what any of that says. I mean, that's ita, something, there, why. I doubt that's ha in this situation, because it's at the end of this. It's just really weird. And wo, or, sometimes it's pronounced. That's used as a particle as well. That right there can be as well. There's just so many of these. They're like words like, you know, how in English we have words like the and shit like that. Just connects words. That's essentially what they are, but it's just really confusing. Just can't get my head around it. That's why I can't form sentences in Japanese, because I have no idea. Just like, if I knew how, like, everything connected, I could just, like, probably just go, okay, this word, use this to put it in there, and combine it in this word, and arrange the order, because Japanese follows a different structure, and shabam! Got a sentence! Just like, okay, it could be something like, I have no idea, which, is a phrase I think I had actually learnt, but I don't know what it was. It's like, so you didn't learn it? No. I spent too much time on the alphabet that I forgot most of the phrases, you know? I mean, there's over freaking 70 bloody characters, for God's sake. I'm surprised I even memorized hiragana. Kasai, who's the culprit? So it wasn't Satoshi-kun. I swear those final words. I was convinced that it was Satoshi-kun. The police and Ooishi must have thought the same way. The reason Ooishi approached me is because he was convinced that Satoshi-kun did it. Don't worry, it doesn't seem like it's Satoshi-kun. I heard it was a lunatic who was aiming to continue the series of mysterious deaths. What? A lunatic? What do you mean? Kasai shrugged. I don't know, since the investigation is classified as a confidential case. The information I can get is limited. I wonder if it's like got kanji characters for that, because that's the exact phrase I was talking about, isn't it? It's like, I don't know. Sa blah 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 blah. Was it what Karima said or something like that? He's not using that from the looks of it. It's so weird. It's like I can recognize some of these characters, but fuck if I can remember like the wordings for them. Like that's, like I've said a million times really, that's what. Very distinct. It'll either be nan or nani. It's kind of really straightforward with that one. I recognize this one, but I can't remember the meaning exactly and shit like that. It's just, there's just way too many characters. It's actually, this like, let's see if there's any that can like prove some of my point here. How they kind of like have similarities. This one actually, right here. This one appeared in my kanji book once, but it hasn't got a page for it. I googled it, it's like a level 3 kanji, and my kanji book only covers level 1 and 2. I forget what it means. I think it means something like thing, which doesn't really make sense because that's pretty vague. I don't know. It's really confusing. Very, very, very confusing. Welsh, on the other hand, probably wouldn't be as confusing if I knew the alphabet. And you know what? I've made an observation with the Welsh language. There's like a there's a certain letter, syllable in the Welsh language. Well, there's quite a few of them that are really confusing because they sound nothing like an English word would. So I can't make a comparison. It's like koch, you know, that kind of drawn out sound, koch. And the more I listen to it and hear people like saying these phrases and all that, the more I observe, it's like it kind of sounds like a duck. Koch. It's just like make a duck sound and you got it. It's like it's in numbers as well. It's like I forgot what 6 was. So it's like een, die, tree, pedwar, pimp. It really is. It's pimp. It's like spelled pump, but it's pronounced pimp. I was right. And then after that is quick, but it doesn't really. It's kind of, I don't know. Then there's scythe, and then there's oif. Which, if you look at it like how it's written, it begins with a W, but it's not pronounced that way. And then it's now for 9, which is really simple, and then dig for 10. And then it's like in dig, in for 11. So it's kind of, you see a pattern of shit like that after a while, you know? Like in dig, in makes 11, right? So dig is 10. And een is 1, and een at the end is also 1, so it's like combining een and dig is actually the 10 in this case, because then when you get to 20, it's die veg. So it'd be like die veg een, I suppose? I don't know, that's another thing. There's like one letter that's like 2 D's in the Welsh language, and it has a V sound to it. There's just so many unexpected shit you find, man. I don't know the Welsh alphabet yet, so I'm just kind of clueless when it comes to the more kind of confusing pronunciations where you really have to put emphasis on a sound that is not in your vocabulary. I mean, I'd always known stuff like koch, but when you freaking narrow it down and try to pronounce that one syllable, it's like, how do you do that? It doesn't even sound like a letter. It's just weird. It's like quiff or quick or whatever. That is essentially CHW something and then CH again. And that CH is what's giving that odd sound. But anyways, I've gotten completely off subject and rambled. I don't know since they're investigating blah blah. Confidential? Why? Prevent the village from developing a bad reputation. You don't see articles about kidnapping while the police are negotiating with the culprit, do you? It's something similar to that. Come to think of it, I hadn't seen anything about the Arns Mid on TV or in the newspaper. These strange deaths has happened 4 years in a row now on the day of Watanagashi. There are those who try to make light of it, and now this lunatic who confessed to Arn's murder said he did it in imitation of the series of mysterious deaths. You know what, I know I've forgotten off subject a billion times already, but I want to see if it's got Watanagashi written out. Like, how's he got it written out? It's gotta be in hiragana or some shit. See what I mean about numbers? They just write it down like that, essentially. They only really use the kanji characters for numbers if it's like for specific things. Like for, like, I don't know, a day of the week, for example. They might use like, I know, I forget how it works. But anyways, let's look for it. It was Watanagashi, right? Watanagashi. You got some good old-fashioned kana over here. I don't see it, actually. It might actually be in kanji. Watanagashi. I have no idea. Because if you remember the whole thing about reading for Watanagashi means cotton drifting, but it could also mean something much different to that, but I won't say what it is to avoid spoiling it if it hasn't gone over it in this one yet. Because I didn't know anything else, so instead of probing him further, I reviewed the information myself. I was really shocked to learn all of this. I was convinced that Satoshi-kun killed her. I thought that was the reason he had to disappear. But it was actually some lunatic who killed her, and he had no relation to the aunt whatsoever. So Satoshi-kun had nothing to do with the murder? If so, why did he disappear? I couldn't accept that this lunatic had killed the aunt. What's really strange is the phrase Kasai used. 4 years in a row now. After all, I'd been thinking that this murder happened because Satoshi-kun had been in a dire situation. And it had nothing to do with the series of mysterious deaths. I felt as though Satoshi-kun's case had become somebody else's. The series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa is also known as the Curse of Oyashiro-sama. Satoshi-kun's case had become one of those mysterious deaths. In other words, Satoshi-kun's case had become a part of Oyashiro-sama's curse. I didn't like the way that sounded, because it was as though the curse had swallowed Satoshi-kun. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to confirm the tip that Satoshi-kun took a train to Tokyo. We don't even know whether or not he's in this prefecture, to be honest. We should break the seal on a new can of instant coffee. Is this Shion? I thought you knew his whereabouts already, since you seemed very convinced he was the culprit. You got me. Ooishi chuckled and poured a cup of coffee which looked far too hot. You have some good sauces. Huh? It's a highly classified case, but you already have this information. I wonder who leaked it. Looks like we need to review our security precautions. Ooishi smirked. Seemed he knew why I was here today. I'm one of the Sonizakis after all, and my ears are open. I smirked back at him. It's all a bit bluffing. Okay, that's definitely a Ooishi. Anyway, since we're friends now, why don't we have a chat? Let me ask you first, who's this real culprit? I heard he was a lunatic, but what does that mean? I don't know how to answer that question. I want to know the answer myself. Really, I was convinced Satoshi-kun was the real culprit. No, that is pretty vague when you think about it, isn't it? He was a lunatic. In what way? He was a lunatic. What else do you need to know? It's like, no, but you're saying that's just some crazy guy. What, it's just a very vague description, isn't it? It'd be like, I don't know, just be saying it was a man, just like, and, well, that's all we know. It was rather, really, I was convinced Satoshi-kun was the real culprit. It was rather surprising to me, too. Higurashi threw himself on the sofa and crossed his hands behind his head. He looked up at the ceiling and smiled dryly. I suddenly received a call from prefectural police the other day. They said that one of the guys in detention confessed to the murder of the housewife. Who is it? He's a crazy dopehead. He's been in and out of prison for drug abuse. His statement says that he was interested in a series of mysterious deaths and wanted to imitate them. Well, now we got some more information on it, I suppose. So he's a druggie. He's sure he's the real culprit. I didn't interrogate him myself, but the prefectural police tells me that he has information that only the real culprit would know. He seems to have thrown the murder weapon into the Oji River. They're searching for it right now. If it's found, his statement will be solid. Even if the weapon wasn't found, would the case be closed? Probably. His statement clearly outlines the state of the crime scene and the body. This information, like I said, covers details that only the actual murderer would know. Don't seem quite convinced. She's still looking up at the ceiling and went quiet. As a matter of fact, the dopehead was already dead. Will somebody get the cat off the damn piano? By the time I got that call. Dead? You know those spoons that are forked at the tip? They use those at the detention facility. I was told that he swallowed one and choked on it. They couldn't tell if it was a suicide or if it was caused by some mental disorder. I imagine somebody swallowed that spoon and gagged. Ugh, not a pleasant way to go, is it? So the investigation hadn't been done that thoroughly. But though I'm not convinced, my superiors are. I think with that, the case will be closed. I suppose it's probably one of those cases where they're just like, nope, we don't want to further pursue this case. We're done with it. Case closed. We got other cases to do. It's just like, we got other cases to sometimes do properly and other times just like, well, this person seemed like they were the ones who did it. We're not gonna further check anything more than that. Fuck it. Case closed. He turned his eyes from the ceiling to me. He looked serious. This is just what I personally feel, okay? So please keep it between the two of us. I believe that this lunatic is some kind of mistake. It might be either a big misunderstanding caused by a chain of coincidences, or, you know... I have no idea what you're talking about. I still believe that the real culprit is Satoshi Hojoku. You sound confident. Unfortunately, we couldn't find anything to prove he was at the crime scene. We obtained a warrant to search his house after he disappeared, but we still found nothing. But you still believe he did it? Yes. Well, now you can be so sure even though you don't have any evidence. It's incredible. Is that supposed to be like the hunch of an experienced detective? Yeah, it's the hunch of a guy who's been in this business for several decades. She smiled in satisfaction, but I didn't feel relieved. Where does Satoshi-kun go? His disappearance convinced me that he was the culprit. If he wasn't the culprit, there'd be no real reason for him to disappear. But if the murder actually was done by that lunatic and Satoshi-kun's disappearance has nothing to do with it? In other words, what if Satoshi-kun disappeared because Sonozak's family didn't take my relationship with him, and he has nothing to do with the murder? Was Satoshi-kun a culprit, or a victim? The reason for his disappearance had become unclear. I don't think they'd bother to make one person disappear just because of an undesirable relationship. What do you hear from inside the Sonozaki family? Do you know anything? I wouldn't be here if I did. You're right. She laughed out loud while scratching his head. And after he stopped laughing, he leaned over. Alright, how about this? Why don't we make a deal? A gentleman's deal. A deal? On what? On information about Satoshi-kun's disappearance. If you find any information like that, you tell me. And I'll also provide you with information if I find it. Do we have a deal? That sounds too convenient for you. She chuckled. Shion-san, I think if we leave things as they are, they'll conclude that the lunatic committed the murder. If that happens, Satoshi-kun's disappearance will be treated as just another runaway minor. They won't search for him as actively as before. But I will continue searching for him. Only I will do it. I believe you're intending to do the same. Our motives are different, though. I just want to know if he's safe, but you'd like to arrest him, wouldn't you? If the murder case was considered solved, Satoshi-kun would be free, regardless of his innocence. I doubt that. Oyashiro chuckled again, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. Well, let's be friends from now on. The enemy of your enemy is your friend, though. I'm not opposed to the Sonozaki family, though. Oh, really? I apologize, then. This is the way of Kurata Ooishi, huh? As Sis and Kasai said, I wouldn't want him as my enemy or my ally, because both would be too risky. Oh yeah, indeed. We've seen from his perspective, like, shit can hit the fan either way with Ooishi, isn't it? I probably shouldn't let my guard down in front of this big fat weasel. I sipped on the coffee to fill up the silence, though I wasn't thirsty. Outside the window I could see normal life taking its course. But Satoshi-kun wasn't there. He should have been there, but he wasn't. I was scared that I might grow used to his absence someday. Where was he? I wonder how Satoshi-kun is doing. Who's speaking now? Okay, that must be Ooishi. I hope he's alright. I know you think he might be dead. Don't patronize me. You know what people are calling his disappearance in Enemy's Hour? Huh? They say that he was demoned away. Let's see if it's Onikakushi. Maybe it's got the kanji even. I don't know. Yeah, that is the kanji. Onikakushi. 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 Niyatan to something Waratek Roruna Toka. So I could translate all that except for that. I have no idea what character that is. And that doesn't even count as translating. It's just like, oh yeah, I can read that, like Nante and all that. What's it mean though? I don't know. Put it back in English. Wrong button. English. Probably was giving context to this. Well, obviously. To be deemed away means the same thing as being spirited away. It's part of the local dialect. He was kidnapped and taken to hell through the bottom of the Onikafuchi swamp. Wait, no, that's obviously Shion, man. He was kidnapped and taken to hell through the bottom of the Onikafuchi swamp. It's ridiculous. Anyway, the series of mysterious deaths has struck for the 4th time. It's too soon, but people are already talking about next year. You saying that the murder was the result of Oyashiro-sama's curse? The victim was one of the Hojos, after all. She was involved in a dam conflict, though indirectly. Really, it's not surprising that some people take an interest in incidents, because they do always happen on the day of Watanagashi. That's ridiculous, too. Oyashiro-sama's curse. Though I said that, I couldn't quite wipe away the fear from my mind. Why did Satoshi-kun disappear? Was it the Sonozaki family? Did he run away from the police? Did he really kill his aunt in the first place? Why did he even disappear? He's on his own. Oyashiro-sama's curse has nothing to do with it. But... that's strange. Satoshi-kun and Oyashiro-sama's curse. Somebody once mentioned those two together before. When did I hear that? Oh, I don't know. How about a certain girl with red hair? It's always weird when you say that, isn't it? Red hair. It's actually, she's got ginger hair, really. It's not red, necessarily. Ah, that's right. At the bus! But you wouldn't say bus, no. Again, another case where the U is silent. It's just bus. Noriba. bus stop. Ah, that's right, that rainy day. It was Rena Ryugu who told me that when we were taking shelter in that shack. Ah, I remember the creepy story that she told me at the time.
Satoshi-kun wants to leave Hinamizawa and run far away, even if only unconsciously.
That's when Rena Ryugu said. Rena had definitely pointed out that Satoshi-kun wanted to leave Hinamizawa at the time. She also said,
everything he's going through is a sign of Oyashiro-sama's curse.
She said that for sure. She had definitely mentioned Oyashiro-sama's curse. A series of mysterious deaths that struck 4 times. With Satoshi-kun being controlled by the curse, is that why he killed his aunt and was deemed away? No way. That can't be true. Satoshi-kun's smile faded away in my mind. Satoshi-kun disappeared. Not only that, the reason for his disappearance also disappeared. It must have been done by a human being. I can't accept that he was deemed away. Notebook, page 43.